All right, thank you so much. Thank you, Mark. So, as Mark indicated, I'm a partner at the Honigman Law Firm, and the Detroit Riverfront Conservancy retained Honigman to investigate the allegations related to its former CFO, William Smith. And today we're announcing that the Conservancy has filed a civil lawsuit against Mr. Smith and four people connected to him, and also three businesses. So to get straight to the point on what this means, the Conservancy is suing Smith because he stole the Conservancy's money. And the defendants and the entities named in this lawsuit either helped or benefited from that as part of a civil conspiracy. The stolen money, as we've discussed before with the Conservancy, came from across the city of Detroit and the state of Michigan and all over from people who contributed to the Detroit riverfront and to people who have made it the best riverfront in the world. And so the Conservancy believes that it really owes it to its supporters to do everything that it possibly can to right this horrible wrong. So we are going to try every avenue to try to make the Conservancy whole again, and these actions today are part of that. In addition to this civil filing in the Wayne Circuit Court, we also filed a motion to intervene in the federal government's case against Smith. That is before Judge Linda Parker. As you know, the United States Attorney's Office brought that case, United States of America versus William Smith, in order to freeze his assets. And so the Conservancy agrees that those assets should be frozen and they should ultimately be returned. And so we filed a motion to intervene in that case. So here's what I'd like to do. First of all, I will explain what the civil suit alleges and what our investigation shows that Smith did and how others were a part of this. Secondly, I'll discuss why we filed this motion to intervene in the U.S. Attorney's Office federal case. Third, I'll explain the next steps. And then fourth, I'll take questions. So why don't we start first here with this civil suit? Let me make the initial disclaimer. All of my comments are allegations. This information is based on our investigation and the information that we've learned, and it's based on what we believe we can prove in court. Our venue is in Wayne County in the Third Circuit. There are multiple defendants. The primary defendant is Will Smith. The other defendants are Smith's business, the Joseph Group, which is a Michigan company. Smith's business, William Smith and Associates, also a Michigan company. Smith's friend and a former Conservancy contractor, Daryl Greer. Daryl Greer's company, U Services, LLC. And then three of Smith's family members, his mother, Charlotte Smith, his sister, Jennifer Smith, and his wife, Kimberly Smith. Our claims are that he stole approximately $40 million of the Conservancy's money. Now, there are different legal words for this, like embezzlement or conversion. The bottom line in this claim is that he stole it. We're also asserting that Smith transferred this money to different groups. He transferred it to the Joseph Group, and he also transferred it to William Smith and Associates by paying his American Express card. That card was in the name of William Smith and also William Smith and Associates. We're also alleging that because he was the CFO, he had an obligation to act in the best interests of the Conservancy. He had a fiduciary duty to do that, and he breached that fiduciary duty. We're arguing that he misrepresented to the staff of the Riverfront Conservancy and the board of directors by giving them fake financial information, and that he hid his actions from the board. And then our final bucket of claims there in front of the court now is that Smith was part of a conspiracy with the others to steal the money. So that is the Conservancy's claims about against Smith. Now, as far as the claims against his associates go, here's the structure of our allegations. First of all, Will Smith gave his relatives copies of the American Express card. So these relatives accepted these cards and they used them. They knew what Smith's income level was. They knew that they were charging exorbitant amounts, and all of those amounts were paid for with the Conservancy's funds. So they are part of the theft of the Conservancy's money. Secondly, when the Conservancy started catching on to this, Smith tried to transfer his assets, and he actually did transfer assets in a few occasions. Smith sold Darrell Greer a rental property house that went to youth services. Greer and Smith had talked. Greer knew what was going on with Smith, and he bought this house anyway. So we're claiming that this is a fraudulent conveyance. And as I indicated before, all the defendants were in a civil conspiracy with Smith to either steal the money or accept it, and Smith then covered up his tracks. As you can see when you look in the complaint, there is a section in here where it's detailed first, second, third. And I'd like to just go through that part of the complaint a little bit to explain how this happened. There's 6 different interconnected steps to what we are alleging was in Will Smith's scheme. The first step has to do with the bank accounts. The Conservancy has 2 bank accounts, and Smith manipulated funds between these accounts. The Citizens Bank account was a general operating account for deposits and expenses. The money to the Conservancy went into the Citizens account. There was also a Comerica Bank account that was much lesser used. Mainly that was used for credit card processing fees, occasionally larger grant deposits, but it was not the Conservancy's primary operating account. So the first step is Smith transferred funds out of that primary operating account at Citizens, and he transferred them into the lesser used Comerica account. Then the second step is that he wired the funds directly out of the Comerica account to pay his American Express card, and also to send money to his business, the Joseph Group. The third part of this is the cover-up. Smith took elaborate steps to conceal these wires going out of the accounts. In order to do this, he created fake or forged Comerica bank statements. And I have an example in the complaint of some of these. He would cut and paste innocuous transactions over the actual wires out. Instead of showing that there are wires going out to the Joseph Group and to American Express, for example, it would look like that there are wires going out for small credit card processing fees or things like that. And then there's a balance, though. So in order to make that account balance, what Smith would occasionally do is he would make it look like there was a large wire that went out of that account and it went payable to the state of Michigan. And we believe that that was so that he could tell the accountant that the money was actually going out to repay a state grant. With these fake documents in hand, then he gave those records to the Conservancy's contract accountant. And he also prevented other people from seeing the real bank records. Smith had the electronic access to these accounts. He kept that to himself, and he didn't let other people see. The fourth step then is once those items are doctored, then Smith essentially creates 2 sets of books. He shows the board what the books are that are balanced and that line up. And then he's showing the accountant something very different. So he's carefully reconciling these financials, and he's never allowing the board to see what the true financials are and what is actually going on. The fifth step is that Smith obtained a $5 million line of credit from Citizens Bank. So the money is going out of the account, and our accusation is that Smith needed to replenish that account because he's stealing the money out. He needs to put money back in. And so he he contacts Citizens Bank. He gives Citizens Bank a forged document that purports to show he has the authority acting upon the Conservancy to open up a new line of credit. And Citizens Bank agrees. They give him a $5 million line of credit, and then the money is replenished in the account. And then the sixth step is the impact and what takes place next, really what Smith does with the account. And I've detailed in this complaint that he spent the money on personal whims, and his relatives also spent things on personal items, and none of this was connected to Conservancy expenses. So if you look at the complaint, there is an impact that is calculated. If you look at the paragraphs about the wires out, I think it's helpful to look to assess what that damage is to look at the money that's going out of the Comerica account. So if you look at this time period between November 5th of 2012 and March 29 of 2024, in that window of time, Smith sends 258 wires to the Joseph Group, and the total is just over $24 million. In this same chunk of time, between 2012 and 2024, Smith sends 211 payments to the American Express card. The total for that is almost $15 million. So when you add up the number of wires, we're at 469 wires, and the amount is $39.3 million. It's just under $39.3 million. So with that in mind, that's why we're bringing this suit. We are requesting all of the damages that we're entitled to law, and we're requesting attorney's fees as well. That is the essence of the civil case. I'd like to next talk about the federal civil motion to intervene. So we filed a motion to intervene in the federal government's case. As you know, the U.S. Attorney's Office had already brought this case. They sought a TRO. They sought a restraining order against William Smith. They achieved that. The goal was to freeze Smith's assets up to $39.3 million, which is the same amount, by the way, of the money that is coming out of the Comerica account. Judge Parker found in her ruling that the Conservancy and the Conservancy's donors and financial partners, they're victims of this fraud. They're victims of Smith's frauds. So we agree. We agree with the asset freezing, but the Conservancy is a victim, and we want our victims' rights to be a part of that case.